Why you stressing me? Why you even messing with me? Why? Why you stressing it? Who you messing with? Get my title right. Madam President. Mad elegant. Always relevant. Check my Instagram, I get a little decadent. I'ma rule you and your little super friends. I'ma school you, mandatory to attend. Not really sorry, but I gotta strike a nerve. Had to take your man, had to kick him to the curb. I'm a homecoming queen, but you just a little nerd. I'm some tight jeans, but you just a little turd. Y'all better believe I'ma get mine. Louis leather V on my waistline. Label got me writing on a deadline. Look out for my name in the headlines. Wake up in the morning, lacing up my Jordans, sipping on my mimosa, I hear butter in my toast. I got a house on either coast, I got a video to post, I got a show, I got a host, I gotta go, so adios. They say, wait a minute, did you see that? Top down, bass up in the Maybach. Beat bumping with a sample from way back. People talking how I brought the whole game back. Everybody trying to get a slice of the pie. Keep the party going, keep the entourage hot. One wrong move, get a slice in your ride. Got a long list of straight thugs that I may cry. Why you stressing it? Who you messing with? Get my title right. Madam President. Mad elegant. Always relevant. Check my Instagram, I get a little decadent. I'ma rule you and your little super friends. I'ma school you, mandatory to attend. Why you stressing it? Who you messing with? Get my title right. Madam President.
Never been good, never been bad. Only been half of that. Only been half of that. Never say no, barely say yes. Staying like a perfect mess. Perfect mess. How do you know what to say when you're waking up? How do you know how to love? How do you know what to say when you make mistakes? How do you know it's okay? Tell me I know how to be that girl. Tell me I know how to live in that world. Just like a song will say, I can be brave. Got what it takes to keep holding on. I can make it work. Tell me I know how to be that girl. Tell me I know how to live in that world. Just like a song will say, I can be brave. Got what it takes to keep holding on. I can make it work.
Got the whole club waiting on me. Guess I'll give them what they came for. 5'3", but my nails real long. DJ better play my song. Private jet, Tokyo to Hong Kong. Think I'm easy, but you got it all wrong. I only drink top shelf, bet you heard about it. Made a name for myself, let me hear you shout it. Paparazzi all around like I'm surrounded. Put a saddle on your horse, cause I wanna mount it. You got the icing and I got the cake. Give me some sugar, we ready to bake. My clarinet should be charming your snake. Slip on your trunk, take a dive in my lake. What's up? Got the whole club waiting on me. Guess I'll give them what they came for. Why don't you come approach me, cutie? Don't be shy, I do not have cooties. I can make a man bloom like Judy. Only thing bigger than my ruby is my booty. Only thing thicker than my wallet is my thighs. Only thing deeper than my pockets is my eyes. So if you really wanna ace my test, just bring your pencil, I'll handle the rest.
It could go down anywhere.
Eso te.
You in or out, baby. It's all about to change. Train leaves the station either way. Baby, it's now or never. Give the answer. I've been waiting to hear. I've been patient, but I can feel a little change in the air. You're playing with feelings. It hurt to be this way. Even if I stay, nothing will ever share.
Girl, don't you know you're beautiful? Don't let the world turn you into something usual. It's okay, we gonna do this our way. La 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 la. Tell me who done did it. Tell me who says you ain't pretty, boo. And just because they said it, does it really make it true? I'm into doing me, girl. You should be doing you. Fuck them folks on Instagram without them filters.
Very smart. How's everybody doing?
Bad and bougie, baby. Put your nose up in the air. You in the pretty girl gang, in case you weren't aware. We know we look good. They don't see it, we don't care.
Is it one of those days, Pippa?
Just be like, la 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 la.
Can feel that.
Girl, don't you know you're beautiful? Don't let the world turn you into something
All right.
usual.
Whew.
Okay, we gonna do
Family day.
la 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 la.
Oh, you found a hairstylist though, Kadrisha. That's great.
Don't let the world turn you into
Always good to feel cute.
It's okay, we gonna do this our way.
Yeah, no, I'm not with family today. I was able to somehow convince them that Easter is an unimportant holiday. So they don't pressure me to come visit anymore for it. I think as soon as my grandpa realized hiding the chocolate around the house was no longer exciting for my adult brother and myself, he gave up. I mean, like, I still want chocolate. It's just not as exciting to, like, find it. Ugh, yeah, I know, right? Like, my family's not religious. They're just rough. I know. Mimi also feels that energy. She just made a little grumble. Okay. Let's switch to... what's this? Whatever this is. It's called dopamine. So that's always good. Sort of vague EDM. Okay. Oh, the representative for the whole queer community and trying to explain that Fox News is lying. Yes. Yes. I have similarly been that person, so I know how that feels. That sucks. Always super fun. Easter egg hunt, like, yeah. It can be fun when done correctly. And I'm sure Mimi would appreciate it.
but only in so much as that it means she gets treats. Right? I just caught her chewing on that sweater. How dare you? I let you have that so that you can relax on the chair because you didn't want the blankets. And now you're chewing on it. So I put this beanbag chair up on top of some wire shelving to try to elevate it enough to stream from it. And I'm perfectly comfortable, but I'm sure once my partner gets home, he's going to be like, "What are you doing in the office? You're being ridiculous. Just sit in a chair like a human." I'm too bisexual for that. Can't sit like a normal person. I'm also eating directly in the microphone. I don't care. No, you're ridiculous. This is my relaxing spot now. Okay. So, we are moving on to chapter 33 today. And I'm aiming to get us to chapter 36 at least. At a minimum. We'll see where we're going, how quickly we're going through this. Because, as has been proven, my math is never good. I can try to calculate how long X number of pages will take as much as I want. And it means nothing. Just as we've learned, it means nothing. So... There we go. Okay, so I think we're all set up properly. Got the book here in front of me. I'm basically just going to get right into it. Is this chapter... How long does this take? Come on, tell me. Yeah, this one's 26 minutes, so it's our usual sort of mid-length situation. Not a huge one, but not a little guy either. Okay. And it has been a little while since we've jumped into the books, so if I remember correctly, they just got into the summer court, and they just sort of met, like, the High Lord there and his wife? Sister? One of those. And she was a bitch. We don't like her. And we're still pretending like Feyre is, like, not very powerful at all, and she's just kind of there to be Rasan's sexy woman after having left Tamlin and all of that. And apparently, like, the law says that, like, they can return her. It's his wife. Thank you, Katricia. So I don't know. What do you want, Mimi? Oh. Can you make it? Make it up here? Get it lower over here. You're not nothing. Okay, Trisha posted her hair. Okay, I'm gonna look at that first before we get started here, because I want to see. I want to see. There you are. Nice. I love the color, and the cut is great. You look beautiful. Also, your glasses are fantastic. Really, mountviewers.com. Well, I mean, just wants me to get followers, primes, and viewers, guys. How do I make him not allowed anymore? Go away, I don't like you. I don't know what to do. I know, what am I supposed to do? I can't say no. There we go. Banned. There we go. Great. None of that nonsense. Okay, so now we've got a mimosa. Not the kind we drink, just the kind that wants to snuggle, which is very good. Got a book. We're gonna start reading. And as I remember things, I might drop in reminders. Ask questions in chat if you forget. I forget. So.
Okay, added.
Oh. Guess Siri added that as a... Start reading and remember things I might drop, is what it says. So Siri has added that as a work reminder for me. I might drop things. Not inaccurate, Siri. Not inaccurate. I do drop a lot of things. I'm also getting all these messages on my phone now. Now is not the time, people. Let's go away there. Okay. Now let's settle in. Actually start. No more interruptions from technology. Chapter 33. We were given a suite of connecting rooms, all centered on a large, lavish lounge that was open to the sea and city below. My bedroom was appointed in seafoam and softest blue with pops of gold, like the gilded clamshell atop my pale wood dresser. I had just set it down when the white door behind me clicked open and Reese slid in. He leaned against the door once he shut it, the top of his black tunic unbuttoned to reveal the upper whorls of the tattoo spanning his chest. Ooh, like buttoned in, showing it off.
The problem, I've realized, will be that I like Tarquin,
he said by way of greeting.
I even like Cressida. Varian I could live without. But I bet a few weeks with Cassian and Azriel, and he'd be thick as thieves with them, and I'd have to learn to like him. Or he'd be wrapped around Amren's finger, and I'd have to leave him alone entirely or risk her wrath.
And I took up a spot against the dresser, where clothes that I had not repacked, but were clearly of night court origin, had been already waiting for me. The space of the room, the large bed, the windows, the sunlight, filled the silence between us.
And,
Reese said,
I want you to find a way to do what you have to do without making enemies of them.
So you're telling me don't get caught? A nod. Then, who is talking? This is the problem. One of the things about this book, this one in particular, and I believe the first one I also had this problem, but I'm noticing it especially now, is that it's hard to keep track of who is saying certain things until you read the sentence, and then you're like, that sounds like a Feyre said it thing. Right? You have to kind of guess. It's like, why? Or she'll put somebody's name in every time before they talk, and then it's too much. The balance is not correct on this. Very hard to keep track. A nod. Then,
do you like that Tarquin can't stop looking at you? I can't tell if it's because he wants you or because he knows you have his power and wants to see how much.
Can't it be both?
Of course. But having a High Lord lusting after you is a dangerous game.
Which she knows all too well, Rasan. She was just about to marry one. Now she's got you all over her. 2 out of what? 7? I don't know. But that's 2. So just throw a third one in. Why not? She is the chosen special girl. First, you taunt me with Cassian. Now, Tarquin? Can't you find other ways to annoy me? Reese prowled closer, and I steadied myself for his scent, his warmth, the impact of his power. Ooh. He braced a hand on either side of me, gripping the dresser. Oh no! I refused to shrink away.
You have one task here, Farah. One task that no one can know about. So do anything you have to in order to accomplish it. But get that book. And do not get caught.
Tell me about it, Farah. Very good. I wasn't some simpering fool. I knew the risks. That tone, that look he always gave me. Anything? His brows rose. I breathed. If I fucked him for it, what would you do? Oh my god! Hey, Ra. I don't know if that would work. His pupils flared, and his gaze dropped to my mouth. The wood dresser groaned beneath his hands.
You say such atrocious things.
I waited, my heart an uneven beat. He at least met my eyes again.
You're always free to do what you want, with whomever you want. So if you want to ride him, go ahead.
No! 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 Stop! This is some sort of like cuckold thing? What is going on? Ugh. Maybe I will. Though a part of me wanted to retort, liar.
Fine.
His breath caressed my mouth. Oh, God. Ugh. Fine, I said, aware of every inch between us. The distance smaller and smaller, the challenge heightening with each second neither of us moved.
Do not,
He said softly, his eyes like stars.
jeopardize this mission.
I know the cost. The sheer power of him enveloped me, shaking me awake. The salt and the sea and the breeze tugged on me, sang to me. And if Reese heard them, too, he inclined his head toward the unlit candle on the dresser. And as if Reese heard them too, he inclined his head toward the unlit candle on the dresser.
Light it.
I debated arguing, but looked at the candle, summoning fire, summoning that hot anger he managed to rile. The candle was knocked off the dresser by a violent splash of water, as if someone had chucked a bucketful. I gaped at the water drench in the dresser, its dripping on the marble floor the only sound. Reese, hands still braced on either side of me, laughed quietly.
Did you ever follow orders?
But whatever it was, being here, close to Tarquin and his power, I could feel that water answering me. Feel it coating the floor, feel the sea churning and idling in the bay, taste the salt on the breeze. I held Reese's gaze. That's how wet she is. The power of horniness. Oh my god. No one was my master. But I might be master of everything if I wished. If I dared. Gosh, gosh, gosh. Like a strange rain, the water rose from the floor as I willed it to become like those stars Reese had summoned in his blanket of darkness. I willed the droplets to separate until they hung around us, catching the light and sparkling like crystals on a chandelier. Reese broke my stare to study them.
I suggest, he murmured, you not show Tarquin that little trick in the bedroom.
You might like it. I sent each and every one of those droplets shooting for the High Lord's face. Too fast, too swiftly for him to shield. Some of them sprayed me as they ricocheted off him. She just did the equivalent of tossing a drink at his face. Good job. Both of us now soaking. Ugh, everybody's a little bit wet, yeah. Reese gaped a bit and smiled.
Work,
He said, at last pushing off the dresser. He didn't bother to wipe away the water gleaming on his skin.
keep practicing.
But I said, will he go to war over me? He knew who I meant. The hot temper that had been on Reese's face moments before turned to lethal calm.
I don't know.
I would go back. If it came to that, Rasan, I'd go back rather than make you fight. More horny, more better. Y'all. He slid a still wet hand into his pocket.
Do you want to go back? Would going to war on your behalf make you love him again? Would that be a grand gesture to win you?
I swallowed hard. I'm tired of death. I wouldn't want to see anyone else die. Least of all for me.
It doesn't answer my question.
No, I wouldn't want to go back. But I would. Pain and killing wouldn't win me. Reese stared at me for a moment longer, his face unreadable, before he strode to the door. He stopped with his fingers on the sea urchin-shaped handle. Ooh, so it's like a spiky handle? I want a spiky door handle, that hurts.
He locked you up because he knew. The bastard knew what a treasure you are. That you're worth more than land or gold or jewels. He knew and wanted to keep you all to himself.
The words hit me, even as they soothed some jagged piece in my soul. He does love me, Rasan.
The issue isn't whether he loved you. It's how much. Too much. Love can be a poison.
And then he was gone. Right, the worst door handle. The worst. Just thinking more about what they just said. And I mean, yes, but at a certain point, if you're turning it into like abuse, is it really love anymore? And I would say no. But at that point, it's a different feeling.
Dump, 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 dump.
Microphone. There, just a little bit lower. There we go. If at any point you can't hear me, just let me know. Like I said, this is an entirely new setup again. Yeah. You know what? I want this playlist is too thumped up as well. That's the other thing.
Don't, 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 don't.
Don't. Not much better, I would say. Don't. These might be better. Here we go. The bay was calm enough, perhaps willed to flatness by its lord and master, that the pleasure barge hardly rocked throughout the hours we dined and drank aboard it. Crafted of richest wood and gold, the enormous boat was amply sized for the hundreds or so fae trying their best not to observe every moment Reese, Omrin, and I made, every movement. The main deck was full of low tables and couches for eating and relaxing, and on the upper level, beneath a canopy of tiles set with mother of pearl, our long table had been set. Tarquin was summer incarnate in turquoise and gold, bits of emerald shining at his buttons and fingers. A crown of sapphire and white gold fashioned like cresting waves sat atop his seafoam-colored hair, so exquisite that I often caught myself staring at it. As I was now, when he turned to where I sat on his right and noticed my stare.
You'd think with our skilled jewelers they could make a crown a bit more comfortable. This one digs in horribly.
A pleasant enough attempt at conversation, when I'd stayed quiet throughout the first hour, instead watching the island city, the water, the mainland, casting a net of awareness, of blind power toward it to see if anything answered, if the book slumbered somewhere out there. Nothing had answered my silent call, so I figured it was as good a time as any, as I said, "How did you keep it out of her hands?" Saying Amarantha's name here, amongst such happy, celebrating people, felt like inviting in a rain cloud. Seated at his left, deep in conversation with Cressida, Reese didn't so much as look over at me. Indeed, he'd barely spoken to me earlier, not even noting my clothes. He didn't even say I was pretty. Unusual, given that even I had been pleased with how I looked, and had again selected it for myself. My hair unbound and swept off my face with a headband of braided rose gold. My sleeveless dusk pink chiffon gown, tight in the chest and waist. Oh. The near twin to the purple one I'd worn that morning. Feminine, soft, pretty. I hadn't felt like those things in a long, long while. Hadn't wanted to. But here, being those things wouldn't earn me a ticket to a life of party planning. Here I could be soft and lovely at sunset, and awaken in the morning to slide into Illyrian fighting leathers. Tarquin said,
We managed to smuggle out most of our treasure when the territory fell. Nostrus, my predecessor, was my cousin. I served as prince of another city, so I got the order to hide the trove in the dead of night, fast as we could.
Amarantha had killed Nostrus when he'd rebelled, and executed his entire family for spite. Tarquin must have been one of the few surviving members, if the power had passed to him. I didn't know the Summer Court valued treasure so much, I said. Tarquin huffed a laugh.
The earliest High Lords did. We do now out of tradition mostly.
I said carefully, casually, So is it gold and jewels you value then?
Among other things.
I sipped my wine to buy time to think of a way to ask without raising suspicions, but maybe being direct about it would be better. Are outsiders allowed to see the collection? My father was a merchant. I spent most of my childhood in his office helping him with his goods. It would be interesting to compare mortal riches to those made by fey hands. Reese kept talking to Cressida, not even a hint of approval or amusement going through our blood. Through our bond. Blood. Why did I say blood? Brain off. Tarquin cocked his head, the jewels in his crown glinting.
Of course. Tomorrow, after lunch, perhaps.
He wasn't stupid. And he might have been aware of the game, but the offer was genuine. I smiled a bit, nodding. I looked toward the crowd milling about, on the deck below, the lantern-lit water beyond, even as I felt Tarquin's gaze linger. He said,
What was it like, the mortal world?
I picked at the strawberry salad on my plate. I only saw a very small slice of it. My father was called the Prince of Merchants, but I was too young to be taken on his voyages to other parts of the mortal world. When I was 11, he lost our fortune on a shipment to Barat. We spent the next 8 years in poverty in a backwater village near the wall. So I can't speak for the entirety of the mortal world when I say that what I saw there was hard. Brutal. Here, class lines are far more blurred, it seems. There, it's defined by money. Either you have it, and you don't share it, or you are left to starve and fight for your survival. My father, he regained his wealth once I went to Prythian. My heart tightened, then dropped into my stomach. And the very people who had been content to let us starve were once again our friends. I would rather face every creature in Prythian than the monsters on the other side of the wall. Without magic, without power, money has become the only thing that matters. Tarquin's lips were pursed, but his eyes were considering.
Would you spare them if war came?
Such a dangerous, loaded question. I wouldn't tell him what we were doing over the wall, not until Reese had indicated we should. My sisters dwell with my father on his estate. For them, I would fight. But for those sycophants and peacocks, I would not mind to see their order disrupted. Like the hate-mongering family of Elaine's betrothed. Tarquin said very quietly,
There are some in Prythian who would think the same of the courts.
What? Get rid of the High Lords?
Perhaps, but most eliminate the inherent privileges of High Fae over the lesser fairies. Even the terms imply a level of unfairness. Maybe it is more like the human realm than you realize, not as blurred as it might seem. In some courts, the lowest of High Fae servants has more rights than the wealthiest of lesser Fae.
I became aware that we were not the only people on the barge, at this table, and that we were surrounded by High Fae with animal keen hearing. Do you agree with them? That it should change?
I am a young High Lord, he said. Barely 80 years old.
So he'd been 30 when Amarantha took over.
Perhaps others might call me inexperienced or foolish, but I have seen those cruelties firsthand, and known many good lesser fairies who suffered from merely being born on the wrong side of power. Even within my own residences, the confines of tradition pressure me to enforce the rules of my predecessors. The lesser fairies are neither to be seen nor heard as they work. I would like to one day see a Prithian in which they have a voice, both in my home and in the world beyond it.
I scanned him for any deceit, manipulation. I found none. Oh, hey, Katricia. I hope it was just for you. I hope everybody else was still here to see me. Steal from him. I would steal from him. But what if I asked instead? Would he give it to me? Or would the traditions of his ancestors run too deep?
Tell me what that look means, Tarquin said, bracing his muscled arms on the gold tablecloth.
I said baldly, I'm thinking it would be very easy to love you, and easier to call you my friend. He smiled at me, broad and without restraint.
I would not object to either.
Okay. Easy. Very easy to fall in love with a kind, considerate male. But I glanced over at Cressida, who was now almost in Rassand's lap. And Rassand was smiling like a cat. One finger tracing circles on the back of her hand while she bit her lip and beamed. Oh, boy. I faced Tarquin, my brows high in silent question. He made a face and shook his head. I hoped they went to her room, because if I had to listen to Reese bed her, I didn't let myself finish the thought. Okay, so we're swinging now, essentially? Okay. Okay. Whew. Tarquin mused.
It has been many years since I saw her look like that.
My cheeks heated. Shame. Shame for what? Wanting to throttle her for no good reason? Rassand teased and taunted me. He never seduced me with those long, intense stares, the half-smiles that were pure Illyrian arrogance. Right, Pippa? It just kind of seems like they're swinging. I supposed I'd been granted that gift once, and had used it up and fought for it, and broken it. And I supposed that Rassand, for all he had sacrificed and done, he deserved it as much as Cressida. Even if for a moment I wanted it. I wanted to feel like that again. And I was lonely. I had been lonely, I realized, for a very, very long time. Reese leaned in to hear something Cressida was saying, her lips brushing his ear, her hand now entwining with his. And it wasn't sorrow or despair or terror that hit me, but unhappiness. Such bleak, sharp unhappiness that I got to my feet. Reese's eyes shifted toward me, at last remembering I existed, and there was nothing on his face. No hint that he felt any of what I did through our bond. I didn't care if I had no shield, if my thoughts were wide open and he read them like a book. He didn't seem to care either. Hey, Jade, yeah, you're right, she's pretty blind. He went back to chuckling at whatever Cressida was telling him, sliding closer. Tarquin had risen to his feet, scanning me and Reese. I was unhappy. Not just broken, but unhappy. An emotion, I realized. It was an emotion, rather than the unending emptiness or survival-driven terror. I need some fresh air, I said, even though we were in the open. But with the golden lights, the people up and down the table, I needed to find a spot on this barge where I could be alone, just for a moment, mission or no.
Would you like me to join you?
I looked at the High Lord of Summer. I hadn't lied. It would be easy to fall in love with a male like him. But I wasn't entirely sure that even with the hardships he'd encountered under the mountain, Tarquin could understand the darkness that might always be in me. Not only from Amarantha, but from years spent being hungry and desperate. That I might always be a little bit vicious or restless. That I might crave peace, but never a cage of comfort. I'm fine, thank you, I said, and headed for the sweeping staircase that led down onto the stern of the ship, brightly lit, but quieter than the main areas at the prow. Reese didn't so much as look in my direction as I walked away. Good riddance. I was halfway down the wood steps when I spotted Amryn and Varian, both leaning against adjacent pillars, both drinking wine, both ignoring each other, even as they spoke to no one else. Perhaps that was another reason why she'd come, to distract Tarquin's watchdog. I reached the main deck, found a spot by the wooden railing that was a bit more shadowed than the rest, and leaned against it. Magic propelled the boat, no oars, no sails. So we moved through the bay, silent and smooth, hardly a ripple in our wake. I didn't realize I'd been waiting for him until the barge docked at the base of the island city, and I'd somehow spent the entire final hour alone. When I filed onto land with the rest of the crowd, Amryn, Varian, and Tarquin were waiting for me at the docks, all a bit stiff-backed. Rasan and Cressida were nowhere to be seen. That was chapter 33. Well... She's jealous. Because Rasan's gonna go and fuck the king's wife. I don't. All of this seems not smart. But I'm sure maybe there's a bigger plan at play for Rasan here, but I don't know. He was like, I like that guy. I'm gonna fuck his wife. Would not be my go-to if it were me, dude, but hey, that's you. You do you, man. Yeah, and she's super jealous. Super jealous. So, before I move on here, just a brief reminder to folks that I am still running my fundraiser. You can see my goal down here in the bottom corner. $25 or more gets you a signed pinup photo of myself. Anything less than that is just greatly appreciated for today's stream. But yeah, I'm taking donations. Link will be in chat, and I really hope that you guys will do that for me so that I can get to Nashville. Some of you already have, and I'm so thankful to those that have. But in the meantime, let's move on to chapter 34. This one is a little longer, but I think we'll get through it. Mercifully, there was no sound from his closed bedroom, and no sound came out of it during that night when I jolted awake from a nightmare of being turned over a spit and couldn't remember where I was. Moonlight danced on the sea beyond my open windows, and there was silence. Such silence. A weapon. I was a weapon to find that book, to stop the king from breaking the wall, to stop whatever he had planned for Jurian and the war that might destroy my world, that might destroy this place. and a high lord who might very well overturn the order of things. For a heartbeat, I missed Valaris, missed the lights and the music and the rainbow. I missed the cozy warmth of the townhouse to welcome me in from the crisp winter. Missed what it had been like to be a part of their little unit. Little unit. Maybe wrapping his wings around me, writing me notes, had been Reese's way of ensuring his weapon didn't break beyond repair. That was fine. Fair enough. We owed each other nothing beyond our promises to work and fight together. He could still be my friend, companion, whatever this thing was between us. His taking someone to his bed didn't change those things. I'd just been a relief to think for a moment. He might just have been as lonely as me. I didn't have the nerve to come out of my room for breakfast, to see if Reese had returned, to see whom he came to breakfast with. I had nothing else to do, I told myself as I lay in bed, until my lunchtime visit with Tarquin. So I stayed there until the servants came in, apologized for disturbing me, and started to leave. I stopped them, saying I'd bathe while I cleaned the room. They were polite, if nervous, and merely nodded as I did, as I claimed. I took my time in the bath, and behind the locked door I let that kernel of Tarquin's power come out, first making the water rise from the tub, then shaping little animals and creatures out of it. It was about as close to transformation as I'd let myself go. Contemplating how I might give myself animalistic features only made me shaky, sick. I could ignore it, ignore that occasional scrape of claws in my blood for a while yet. I was on to water butterflies, flitting through the room when I realized I'd been in the tub long enough that the bath had gone cold. Like the night before, Nuala walked through the walls from wherever she was staying in the place. Where are we here? Like the night before, Nuala walked through the walls from wherever she was staying in the palace, and dressed me, somehow attuned to when I'd be ready. Saradwin, she told me, had drawn the short stick and was seeing to Amrin. I didn't have the nerve to ask about Reese either. Nuala selected seafoam green accented with rose gold, curling and then braiding back my hair in a thick, loose plait, glimmering with bits of pearl. Whether Nuala knew why I was there, what I'd be doing, she didn't say. But she took extra care of my face, brightening my lips with raspberry pink, dusting my cheeks with the faintest blush. I might have looked innocent, charming, were it not for my gray-blue eyes. More hollow than they'd been last night, when I'd admired myself in the mirror. I'd seen enough of the palace to navigate to where Tarquin had said to meet before we bid goodnight. The main hall was situated on a level about halfway up, the perfect meeting place for those who dwelled in the spires above and those who worked unseen and unheard below. This level held all the various council rooms, ballrooms, dining rooms, and whatever other rooms might be needed for visitors, events, gatherings. Access to the residential levels from which I'd come was guarded by 4 soldiers at each stairwell, all of whom watched me carefully as I waited against a seashell pillar for their High Lord. I wondered if he could sense that I'd been playing with his power in the bathtub, that the piece of him he'd yielded was now here and answering to me. Tarquin emerged from one of the adjacent rooms as the clock struck 2, followed by my own companions. Rasan's gaze swept over me, noting the clothes that were obviously in honor of my host and his people, noting the way I did not meet his eyes or Cressida's as I looked solely at Tarquin and Amrin beside him. Varian now striding off to the soldiers at the stairs, and gave them both a bland, close-lipped smile.
"You're looking well today,"
Tarquin said, inclining his head. Nawala, it seemed, was a spectacularly good spy. Tarquin's pewter tunic was accented with the same shade of seafoam green as my clothes. We might as well have been a matching set. I supposed with my brown gold hair and pale skin, I was his mirror opposite. I could feel Reese still assessing me. I shut him out. Maybe I'd send a water dog barking after him later. Let it bite him in the ass. Would water shaped like a dog even hurt when it bites him? I guess she could make it hurt? I don't know. I hope I'm not interrupting, I said to Amryn. Amryn shrugged her slim shoulders, clad in flagstone gray today. We were finishing up a rather lively debate about armadas and who might be in charge of a unified front. Did you know, she said, that before they became so big and powerful, Tarquin and Varian led Nostrus's fleet? Varian, several feet away, stiffened, but did not turn. Yeah, I guess that would be extremely humiliating if he got bit in the ass by a dog. I met Tarquin's eye. You didn't mention you were a sailor. It was an effort to sound intrigued, like I had nothing at all bothering me. Tarquin rubbed his neck.
I had planned to tell you during our tour.
He held out an arm.
Shall we?
Not one word. I had not uttered one word to respond, and I wasn't about to start as I looped my arm through Tarquin's and said to none of them in particular, "See you later." Something brushed against my mental shield, a rumble of something dark, powerful, perhaps a warning to be careful. Though it felt an awful lot like the dark, flickering emotion that had haunted me. So much like it that I stepped a bit closer to Tarquin, and then I gave the High Lord of Summer a pretty, mindless smile that I had not given to anyone in a long, long time. That brush of emotion went silent on the other side of my shields. Good. Tarquin brought me to a hall of jewels and treasure so vast that I gawked for a good minute. A minute that I used to scan the shelves for any twinkle of feeling. Anything that felt like the male at my side, like the power I'd summoned in the bathtub.
And this is...
Oh, sorry, this is not him. And this is just one of the troves? The room had been carved deep beneath the castle, behind a heavy lead door that had only opened when Tarquin placed his hand on it. I didn't dare get close enough to the lock to see if it might work under my touch. His feigned signature. A fox in the chicken coop. That's what I was. Tarquin loosed a chuckle.
My ancestors were greedy bastards.
I shook my head, striding to the shelves built into the wall. Solid stone. No way to break in unless I tunneled through the mountain itself. Or if someone winnowed me. Though there were likely wards similar to those on the townhouse and the House of Wind. Boxes overflowed with jewels and pearls and uncut gems. Gold heaped in trunks so high it spilled onto the cobblestone floor. Suits of ornate armor stood guard against one wall. Dresses woven of cobwebs and starlight leaned against another. There were swords and daggers of every sort. But no books. Not one. Do you know the history behind each piece?
Some, he said. I haven't had much time to learn about it all.
Good. Maybe he wouldn't know about the book. Wouldn't miss it. I turned in a circle. What's the most valuable thing in here?
Thinking of stealing?
I choked on a laugh. Wouldn't asking that question make me a lousy thief? Lying, two-faced wretch. That's what asking that question made me. Tarquin studied me.
I'd say I'm looking at the most valuable thing in here.
Fucking flirt. I didn't fake the blush. You're very kind. His smile was soft, as if his position had not yet broken the compassion in him. I hoped it never did.
Honestly, I don't know what's the most valuable thing. These are all priceless heirlooms of my house.
I walked up to a shelf, scanning. A necklace of rubies was splayed on a velvet pillow, each of them the size of a robin's egg. It'd take a tremendous female to wear that necklace, to dominate the gems and not the other way around. On another shelf, a necklace of pearls, then sapphires. And on another, a necklace of black diamonds. Each of the dark stones was a mystery, and an answer. Each of them slumbered. Tarquin came up behind me, peering over my shoulder at what had snagged my interest. His gaze drifted to my face.
Take it.
What? I whirled to him. He rubbed the back of his neck.
As a thank you for Under the Mountain.
Ask it now. Ask him for the book instead. But that would require trust, and kind as he was a High Lord. He pulled the box from its resting spot and shut the lid before handing it to me.
You were the first person who didn't laugh at my idea to break down class barriers. Even Cressida snickered when I told her. If you won't accept the necklace for saving us, then take it for that.
It is a good idea, Tarquin. Appreciating it doesn't mean you have to reward me. He shook his head.
Just take it.
It would insult him if I refused, so I closed my hands around the box. Tarquin said,
It will suit you in the Night Court.
Perhaps I'll stay here and help you revolutionize the world. His mouth twisted to the side.
I could use an ally in the north.
Was that why he had brought me? Why he'd given me the gift? I hadn't realized how alone we were down here, that I was beneath ground, in a place that could be easily sealed.
You have nothing to fear from me,
he said, and I wondered if my scent was that readable.
But I meant it. You have sway with Rasan, and he is notoriously difficult to deal with. He gets what he wants. His plans he does not tell anyone about until after he's completed them, and does not apologize for any of it. Be his emissary to the human realm, but also be ours. You've seen my city. I have 3 others like it. Amarantha wrecked them almost immediately after she took over. All my people want now is peace and safety, and to never have to look over their shoulders again. Other High Lords have told me about Rhys, and warned me about him, but he spared me Under the Mountain. Brutius was my cousin, and we had forces gathering in all of our cities to storm Under the Mountain. They caught him sneaking out through the tunnels to meet with them. Rhys saw that in Brutius's mind. I know he did. And yet he lied to her face, and defied her when she gave the order to turn him into a living ghost. Maybe it was for his own schemes, but I know it was a mercy. He knows that I am young and inexperienced, and he spared me.
Tarquin shook his head, mostly at himself.
Sometimes I think I think he might have been her whore to spare us all from her full attention.
What do you think he was doing? I really don't think that he loved her. And I never got that impression. But, We all got thoughts. Right, Nini? Right. I would betray nothing of what I knew, but I suspected he could see it in my eyes, the sorrow at the thought.
I know I'm supposed to look at you, Tarquin said, and see that he's made you into a pet, into a monster. But I see the kindness in you, and I think that reflects more on him than anything. I think it shows that you and he might have many secrets.
Oh, hey, Arctic. Yes, reading has been fun today so far. Stop, I blurted. Just stop. You know I can't tell you anything, and I can't promise you anything. Rasand is High Lord. I only serve in his court. Tarquin glanced at the ground.
Forgive me if I've been forward. I'm still learning how to play the games of these courts. To my advisor's chagrin.
I hope you never learn how to play the games of these courts. Tarquin held my gaze, face wary, but a bit bleak.
Then allow me to ask you a blunt question. Is it true you left Tamlin because he locked you up in his house?
Oh, yes, I do have a comfy position. I'm on my beanbag chair today. I've got Mimi here. We're very comfortable. I tried to block out the memory, the terror and agony of my heart breaking apart, but I nodded.
And is it true that you were saved from confinement by the Night Court?
I nodded again. Tarquin said,
The Spring Court is my southern neighbor. I have tenuous ties with them. But unless asked, I will not mention that you were here.
Thief, liar, manipulator. I didn't deserve his alliance. But I bowed my head in thanks. Any other treasure troves to show me?
Are gold and jewels not impressive enough? What of your merchant's eye?
I tapped the box. Oh, I got what I wanted. Now I'm curious to see how much your alliance is worth. Tarquin laughed, the sound bouncing off the stone and wealth around us.
I didn't feel like going to my meetings this afternoon anyway.
I never feel like going to afternoon meetings. Sorry, I'm going to put this on top of you for a second. What a reckless, wild, young High Lord. Tarquin linked elbows with me again, putting my arm as he led me from the chamber.
You know, I think it might be very easy to love you too, Feyre. Easier to be your friend.
I made myself look away shyly as he sealed the door shut behind us, placing a palm flat on the space above the handle. I listened to the click of locks sliding into place. He took me to other rooms beneath his palace, some full of jewels, others weapons, others clothes from eras long since past. He showed me one full of books, and my heart leaped, but there was nothing in there. Nothing but leather and dust and quiet. No trickle of power that felt like the mail beside me. No hint of the book I needed. Tarquin brought me to one last room, full of crates and stacks covered in sheets. And as I beheld all the artwork looming beyond the open door, I said, I think I've seen enough for today. He asked no questions as he resealed the chamber and escorted me back to the busy, sunny upper levels. There had to be other places where it might be stored, unless it was in another city. I had to find it, soon. It was only so long Rhys and Amryn could draw out their political debates before we had to go home. I just prayed I'd find it fast enough and not hate myself any more than I currently did. Rasan was lounging on my bed as if he owned it. I took one look at the hands crossed behind his head, the long legs draped over the edge of the mattress, and ground my teeth. What do you want? I shut the door loud enough to emphasize the bite in my words.
Flirting, giggling with Tarquin.
Oh my god, what did I break? Nothing, don't matter. Just knocked over a box. Of course I did. Siri, you didn't remind me about dropping things. Useless.
Flirting and giggling with Tarquin did you no good, I take it.
I chuckled. I chucked the box onto the bed beside him. You tell me. The smile faltered as he sat up, flipping open the lid.
This isn't the book.
No, but it's a beautiful gift.
You want me to buy you jewelry, Feyre? Then say the word. Though, given your wardrobe, I thought you were aware that it was all bought for you.
I hadn't realized, but I said, Tarquin is a good male, a good High Lord. You should just ask him for the damn book. Rhys snapped shut the lid.
So he plies you with jewels and pours honey in your ear, and now you feel bad.
Honey in your ear? I know he means words, but He wants your alliance, desperately. He wants to trust you, rely on you.
Well, Cressida is under the impression that her cousin is rather ambitious, so I'd be careful to read between his words.
Cousin wife? Are we dealing with a cousin wife situation? I hate that. I hate that. First cousin lovin', first cousin lovin'. You. Oh, did she tell you that before, during, or after you took her to bed? Rhys stood in a graceful, slow movement.
Is that why you wouldn't look at me? Because you think I fucked her for information?
Information or your own pleasure, I don't care. He came around the bed. Came around the bed. He came around the bed and I stood my ground, even as he stopped with hardly a hand's breadth between us.
Jealous, Feyre?
Yeah. If I'm jealous, then you're jealous about Tarquin and his honey pouring. Ew. Rasan's teeth flashed.
Do you think I particularly like having to flirt with a lonely female to get information about her court, her high lord? Do you think I feel good about myself doing that? Do you think I enjoy doing it just so you have the space to ply Tarquin with your smiles and pretty eyes, so we can get the book and go home?
You seemed to enjoy yourself plenty last night. His snarl was soft, vicious.
I didn't take her to bed. She wanted to, but I didn't so much as kiss her. I took her out for a drink in the city, let her talk about her life, her pressures, and brought her back to her room and went no farther than the door. I waited for you at breakfast, but you slept in. Or avoided me, apparently. And I tried to catch your eyes this afternoon, but you were so good at shutting me out completely.
Is that what got under your skin? That I shut you out? Or that it was so easy for Tarquin to get in? Two people who can read each other's minds, they sure can't read each other. It's true. He literally taught her, though, how to keep him out, so he can't be so mad when she does it.
What got under my skin
Reese said, his breathing a bit uneven.
is that you smiled at him.
He's upset that she did a smile? What? Oh, cute. The rest of the world faded to mist as the words sank in. You are jealous. He shook his head, stalking to the little table across against the far wall and knocking back a glass of amber liquid. He braced his hands on the table, the powerful muscles of his back quivering beneath his shirt as the shadows of those wings struggled to take form.
I heard what you told him, he said. That you thought it would be easy to fall in love with him. You meant it too.
So? It was the only thing I could think of to say.
I was jealous of that. That I'm not that sort of person for anyone. The summer court has always been neutral. They only showed backbone during those years under the mountain. I spared Tarquin's life because I'd heard how he wanted to even out the playing field between high fae and lesser fairies. I have been trying to do that for years. Unsuccessfully, but I spared him for that alone. And Tarquin, with his neutral court, he will never have to worry about someone walking away because the threat against their life, their children's lives, will always be there. So yes, I was jealous of him, because it will always be easy for him, and he will never know what it is to look up at the night sky and wish.
The Court of Dreams. The people who knew that there was a price, and one worth paying, for that dream. The bastard-born warriors, the Illyrian half-breed, the monster trapped in a beautiful body, the dreamer born into a court of nightmares, and the huntress with an artist's soul. And perhaps because it was the most vulnerable thing he'd said to me, perhaps because the burning in my eyes, but I walked to where he stood over the little bar. I didn't look at him as I took the decanter of amber liquid and poured myself a knuckle's length, then refilled his. But I met his stare as I clinked my glass against his, the crystal ringing clear and bright over the crashing sea far below, and said, "To the people who look at the stars and wish, Reese." He picked up his glass, his gaze so piercing that I wondered why I had bothered blushing at all for Tarquin. Reese clinked his glass against mine.
To the stars who listen, and the dreams that are answered.
Cute! They had a cute little moment. Oh, sweet. Okay, so we've got chapter 35. Everybody's jealous of everybody this chapter. Oh my goodness. But really, they should just ask him for the book. I think he would be open to it if they explained everything that was going on. We're halfway through, Katrusha? Oh my god, halfway point, halfway point, halfway point. Oh, I'm sorry, I disturbed the dog. She didn't like that. She didn't like me getting excited. So yeah, we're at the halfway point. So exciting. Did the music stop again? Really, it's happened several times. I'm getting very tired of this. No excitement, only pets. Is it gonna play? Alright. She really is going right to sleep, eh? Oh my goodness. All right. Chapter 35. 2 days passed. Every moment of it was a balancing act of truth and lies. Reese saw to it that I was not invited to the meetings he and Amran held to distract my kind host, granting me time to scour the city for any hint of the book. But not too eagerly, not too intently. I could not look too intrigued as I wandered the streets and docks, could not ask too many leading questions of the people I encountered about the treasures and legends of Adriata. Even when I awoke at dawn, I made myself wait until a reasonable hour before setting out into the city, made myself take an extended bath to secretly practice that water magic. And while crafting water animals grew tedious after an hour, it came to me easily. Perhaps because of my proximity to Tarquin, perhaps because of whatever affinity for water was already in my blood, my soul, though I certainly was in no position to ask. Once breakfast had finally been served and consumed, I made sure to look a bit bored and aimless when I finally strode through the shining halls of the palace on my way into the awakening city. Hardly anyone recognized me as I casually examined shops and houses and bridges for any glimmer of a spell that felt like Tarquin, though I doubted they had reason to. It had been the high fae, the nobility, that had been kept under the mountain. These people had been left here, to be tormented. Scars littered the buildings, the streets, from what had been done in retaliation for their rebellion. Burn marks, gouged bits of stone, entire buildings turned to rubble. The back of the castle, as Tarquin had claimed, was indeed in the middle of being repaired. 3 turrets were half shattered, the tan stone charred and crumbling. No sign of the book. Workers toiled there and throughout the city to fix those broken areas. Just as the people I saw, high fae and fairies with scales and gills and long, spindly webbed fingers. All seemed to be slowly healing. There were scars and missing limbs on more than I could count, but in their eyes, light gleamed. I had saved them, too. Freed them from whatever horrors had occurred during those 5 decades. I had done a terrible thing to save them, but I had saved them. And it would never be enough to atone, but I did not feel quite so heavy, despite not finding a glimmer of the book's presence, when I returned to the palace atop the hill on the 3rd night to await Risan's report on the day's meetings, and learn if he'd managed to discover anything too. As I strode up the steps of the palace, cursing myself for remaining so out of shape, even with Cassian's lessons, I spied Amran perched on the ledge of a turret balcony, cleaning her nails. Varian leaned against the threshold of another tower balcony within jumping range, and I wondered if he was debating if he could clear the distance fast enough to push her off. A cat playing with a dog, that's what it was. Amran was practically washing herself, silently daring him to get close enough to sniff. I doubted Varian would like her claws. Unless that was why he hounded her day and night. I shook my head, continuing up the steps, watching as the tide swept out. Sunset-stained sky caught on the water and tidal muck. A little night breeze whispered past, and I leaned into it, letting it cool the sweat on me. There had once been a time when I dreaded the end of summer, had prayed it would hold out for as long as possible. Now the thought of endless warmth and sun made me bored, restless. Can't relate. I imagine I would like it forever, but then again, am I living in that? No. Outside it is just now starting to feel a little bit like springtime, and I'm living for it. It's amazing. I was about to turn back to the stairs when I beheld a bit of land that had been when I beheld the bit of land that had been revealed near the tidal causeway. The small building. No wonder I hadn't seen it, as I'd never been up this high in the day when the tide was out. And during the rest of the day, from the muck and seaweed now gleaming on it, it would have been utterly covered. Even now, it was half submerged. But I couldn't tear my eyes from it. Like it was a little piece of home, wet and miserable looking as it was, and I need only hurry along the muddy causeway between the quieter part of the city and the mainland. Fast, 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 so I might catch it before it vanished beneath the waves again. But the sight was too visible, and from the distance, I couldn't definitively tell if it was the book contained within. We'd have to be absolutely certain before we went in, to warrant the risks in searching. Absolutely certain. I wish I didn't, but I realized I already had a plan for that, too. So they're hiding the book in this little building that's only accessible, well, the tide is out. You'd think that in a place that is so water-centric, they would have thought maybe they would use the tide to disguise something. That would have been a thought I would like to think that an intelligent person would have come up with, but I also didn't think of it, but I'm also not an intelligent person, so. I'm not stupid, I'm just not, I went to community college, people, for theater. So, do with that what you will. We dined with Tarquin, Cressida, and Varian in their family dining room, a sure sign that the High Lord did indeed want that alliance, ambition or no. Varian was studying Amrin as if he was trying to solve a riddle she'd posed to him. And she paid him no heed whatsoever as she debated with Cressida about the various translations of some ancient text. I'd been leading up to my question, telling Tarquin of the things I'd seen in his city that day. The fresh fish I'd bought for myself on the docks. Why did she buy fish? You're staying at this guy's house. They're making you food. Like, why would you buy fish? Oh, unless you're talking about, like, you went down there and you ate fish at the dock. Like, somebody cooked it and gave it to you, then fine. I don't know. My first thought was just, oh yeah, just went and bought some raw fish, whole fish. It's gonna make herself a branzino, I don't know, I'm just dumb. They're gonna talk about it now. I now realize this is the conversation they're having, and I should have just kept reading. Okay.
You waited right there?
Tarquin said, lifting his brows. Rhys had propped his head on a fist as I said, "They fried it with the other fishermen's lunches. Didn't charge me extra for it." Tarquin let out an impressed laugh.
I can't say I've ever done that, sailor or no.
You should, I said, meaning every word. It was delicious. I'd worn the necklace he'd given me, and Nuala and I planned my clothes around it. We decided on gray, a soft dove shade, to show off the glittering black. I had worn nothing else. Oh, what, you're naked? No. I had worn nothing else. No earrings, no bracelets, no rings. Tarquin had seemed pleased by it, even though Varian had choked when he beheld me in an heirloom of his household. Cressida, surprisingly, had told me it suited me, and it didn't fit in here, anyway. A backhanded compliment, but praise enough. She just kept it in her pockets, yeah. That's why you go to the fish market, they set up stalls. But you said steaks, and... I mean, you can get steak at the market that I would go to for fish. Oh, you eat it fresh from the sea, and it's good, okay. Yeah, I've never had like sea fish. I've only had lake fish like that, which is good. Because we've only got lakes around where I'm from. Nope, I'd have to go, I think. Yeah, if I go down to Vancouver, I could probably get some ocean fish. But not in Toronto. No ocean here, just lakes. Yo, I can't with this. Just stop start every couple minutes with this thing. It's just driving me crazy. Oh, the Japanese fish market. Like, I must say, Japan's never, like, been on my list of places that, like, I have to visit one day, but I would go. And definitely getting seafood there is, like, the thing, right, for eating. Oh, just poked your head in and then got out of the way? Sounds smart. And then just spent the rest of the day eating from stalls. Yeah. That's the dream. Honestly, when I travel, like, the food is very important to me. Which is part of why when we go to Nashville, my partner, he wants to go to all the fast food places. And he's also, like, adding, like, we have to go hunt down sodas and stuff at convenience stores that we can't get here, and like all these things. And I'm like, that's great, but I want to get something like really good at least one time, can we? Or do I have to just eat at Jack in the Box? Is that required? Really don't want to. But, you know, fair enough. He's also never been to the States, and I have a couple times, so. I plan meals, and he just wants to try, like, something off the McDonald's menu we don't have. Like, okay, alright. And every person I tell, they're like, yeah, I'd want to do that too. I'm like, I'm not telling you I don't ever want to do it. I'm telling you, this is all he wants to do. It's a lot. There are more meals in the day, or like there are more restaurants he wants to go to than there are meals across all the days we're there. So, like, I don't know. Anyway. Well, maybe I'll go tomorrow, if you'll join me. Down to get fish. I grinned at Tarquin, aware of everyone... I grinned at Tarquin, aware of everyone I offered him, now that Rhys had mentioned it. Beyond his giving me brief nightly updates on their lack of progress with discovering anything about the book, we hadn't really spoken since that evening I'd filled his glass. Though it had been because of our own full days, not awkwardness. I'd like that, I said. Perhaps we could go for a walk in the morning down the causeway when the tide is out. There's that little building along the way. It looks fascinating. Cressida stopped speaking. I've got to get down on some southern food, right? Like, I like fried chicken, and I know there's, like, good Nashville hot chicken and all of that going on. So chicken is yes. I'm big on, like, potatoes with gravy and stuff. The only thing is that I don't eat beef. So all of the beef things are off the table. But I will get down on some barbecue if it is pork, or if it is chicken, I will eat that. Definitely. But just keep your beef and cheese away from me. Other than that, I'm down. And Mimi is so sad that she can't come and eat all of the food too. I know. Yeah, usually barbecue, it's usually pork. So I'll probably be fine. Anyway, so she's mentioned the little building in the open. Cressida stopped speaking, but I went on, sipping from my wine. I figure since I've seen most of the city now, I could see it on my way to visit some of the mainland, too. Tarquin's glance at Cressida was all the confirmation I needed. That stone building indeed guarded what we sought.
It's a temple ruin,
Tarquin said blandly, the lie smooth as silk.
just mud and seaweed at this point. We've been meaning to repair it for years.
Maybe we'll take the bridge then. I've had enough of mud for a while. Remember that I saved you, that I fought the Midgard worm? Forget the threat. Tarquin's eyes held mine, for a moment too long. In the span of a blink, I hurled my silent, hidden power toward him, a spear aimed toward his mind, those wary eyes. There was a shield in place, a shield of sea glass and coral and the undulating sea. I became that sea, became the whisper of waves against stone, the glimmer of sunlight on a gull's white wings. I became him, became that mental shield. And then I was through it, a clear, dark tether showing me the way back should I need it. I let instinct, no doubt granted from race, guide me forward to what I needed to see. Tarquin's thoughts hit me like pebbles.
Why does she ask about the temple, of all the things to bring up?
Around me, they continued eating. I continued eating. I willed my own face, in a different body, a different world, to smile pleasantly.
Why did they want to come here so badly? Why ask about my trove?
Like lapping waves, I sent my thoughts washing over his. She is harmless. She is kind and sad and broken. You saw her with your people. You saw how she treated them, how she treats you. Amarantha did not break that kindness. I poured my thoughts into him, tinting them with brine and the cries of terns, wrapping them in the essence that was Tarquin, the essence he'd given to me. Take her to the mainland tomorrow. That'll keep her from asking about the temple. She saved Prithian. She is your friend. My thoughts settled in him like a stone dropped into a pool, and as the wariness faded in his eyes, I knew my work was done. I hauled myself back, slipping through that ocean and pearl wall, reeling inward until my body was a cage around me. Tarquin smiled.
We'll meet after the breakfast, unless Rasan wants me for more meetings.
Neither Cressida nor Varian so much as glanced at him. Had Rhys taken care of their own suspicions? Lightning shot through my blood, even as my blood chilled to realize what I'd done. Rhys waved a lazy hand.
By all means, Tarquin, spend the day with my lady.
My lady. I ignored the two words, but I shut out my own marveling at what I'd accomplished. The slow-building horror, the invisible violation Tarquin would never know about. I leaned forward, bracing my bare forearms on the cool wood table. Tell me what there is to see on the mainland, I asked Tarquin, and steered him away from the temple on the tidal causeway. Oh, my lady. Okay. Rhys and Amryn waited until the household lights dimmed before coming into my room. I'd been sitting in bed, counting down the minutes, forming my plan. None of the guest rooms looked out onto the causeway, as if they wanted no one to notice it. Reese arrived first, leaning against the closed door.
What a fast learner you are. It takes most Demonte years to master that sort of infiltration.
My nails bit into my palms. You knew that I did it? Speaking the words aloud felt too much. Too real. A shallow nod.
And what expert work you did, using the essence of him to trick his shields, to get past them. Clever lady.
He'll never forgive me, I breathed.
He'll never know.
Reese angled his head, silly dark hair sliding over his brow. Silky dark hair, I read it as silly. His hair is not silly. Silky dark hair sliding over his brow.
You get used to it. The sense that you're crossing a boundary, that you're violating them. For what it's worth, I didn't particularly enjoy convincing Varian and Cressida to find other matters more interesting.
I dropped my gaze to the pale marble floor. If you hadn't taken care of Tarquin, he went on,
the odds are we'd be knee-deep in shit right now.
It was my fault anyway. I was the one who asked about the temple. I was only cleaning up my own mess. I shook my head. It doesn't feel right.
Never does. Or it shouldn't. Far too many Demonte lose their sense. But here, tonight, the benefits outweighed the costs.
Is that also what you told yourself when you went into my mind? What was the benefit then? Reese pushed off the door, crossing to where I sat on the bed.
There are parts of your mind I left undisturbed. Things that belong solely to you and always will. And as for the rest,
his jaw clenched.
You scared the shit out of me for a long while, Feyre. Checking in that way, I couldn't very well stroll into the spring court and ask how you were doing, could I?
Light footsteps sounded in the hall. Amren. Reese held my gaze, though as he said,
I'll explain the rest some other time.
The door opened. It seems like a stupid place to hide a book, Amren said by way of greeting as she entered, plopping onto the bed.
And the last place one would look,
Reese said, prowling away from me to take a seat on the vanity stool before the window.
Who's saying this? They could spell it easily enough against wet and decay, a place only visible for brief moments throughout the day. When the land around it is exposed for all to see, you could not ask for a better place. We have the eyes of thousands watching us.
So how do we get in? I said.
It's likely warded against winnowing, Reese said,
bracing his forearms on his thighs.
I won't risk tripping any alarms by trying, so we go in at night, the old-fashioned way. I can carry you both, then keep watch,
he added when I lifted my brows. Such gallantry, Amren said, to do the easy part, then leave us helpless females to dig through mud and seaweed.
Someone needs to be circling high enough to see anyone approaching or sounding the alarm. And masking you from sight.
I frowned. The locks responded to his touch. Let's hope they respond to mine. Amren said, When do we move? Tomorrow night, I said. We note the guards' rotations tonight at low tide. Figure out where the watchers are. Who we might need to take out before we make our move.
You think like an Illyrian,
Reese murmured. I believe that's supposed to be a compliment, Amren confided. Reese snorted, and shadows gathered around him as he loosened his grip on his power.
Nuala and Saradwin are already on the move inside the castle. I'll take to the skies. The two of you should go for a midnight walk, considering how hot it is.
Then he was gone, with a rustle of invisible wings and a warm, dark breeze. Amren's lips were blood red in the moonlight. I knew who would have the task of taking out any spying eyes, and wind up with a meal. My mouth dried out a bit, care for a stroll. And that's chapter 35. Okay, so now we know where the book is. They've got a plan to go get it. They're just trying to work out which guards are where now. And I still think they should just talk to him and ask for it. But I understand it's a risk and that they'd rather just steal it, so that's on them. So chapter 36 is fairly short, so I think we can comfortably say that we'll do that one. It may be the last one for the day, just depending on how I'm feeling. 'Cause I'm starting to get a little bit headachy. It's never fun. This baby, she's sleeping. Then I might want to take a little bit of a nap before we watch a movie later. So yes, Sote, you can fire up your stream. So everybody can hang out over there for a little while. But let's get started on chapter 36. The following day was torture. Slow, unending, hot as hell torture. Thanks, Sote. Yeah, they were pretty cagey about it, Jade Egg. So, I mean, like, yeah, maybe they wouldn't just give it to them. But I feel like, you know, they haven't explained any of what's going on. With the threat of impending war and the cauldron thing and why they need the book. Like, I think if they talk to them about it, they might be down, but... Oh, no. Feigning interest in the mainland as I walked with Tarquin, met his people, smiled at them. Grew harder as the sun meandered across the sky, then finally began inching toward the sea. Liar, thief, deceiver. That's what they'd call me soon. I hoped they'd know, that Tarquin would know, that we'd done it for their sake. Supreme arrogance, perhaps, to think that way, but it was true. Given how quickly Tarquin and Cressida had glanced at each other, guided me away from that temple, I'd bet that they wouldn't have handed over that book, for whatever reason of their own. They wanted it. Maybe this new world of Tarquin's could only be built on trust, but he wouldn't get a chance to build it if it was all wiped away beneath the King of Hyburn's armies. Yes, but why be honest when you can overcomplicate everything and lie all the time? Exactly. When you can just be devious and just steal things. Just fly into the night. That's what I told myself over and over as we walked through his city, as I endured the greetings of his people. Perhaps not as joyous as those in Valaris, but a tentative, hard-won warmth. People who had endured the worst and tried now to move beyond it. As I should be moving beyond my own darkness. When the sun was at last sliding into the horizon, I confessed to Tarquin that I was tired and hungry, and, being kind and accommodating, he took me back, buying me a baked fish pie on the way home. Aww. He'd even eaten a fried fish at the docks that afternoon. Dinner was worse. We'd be gone before breakfast, but they didn't know that. Reese mentioned returning to the night court tomorrow afternoon, so perhaps an early departure wouldn't be so suspicious. He'd leave a note about urgent business, thanking Tarquin for his hospitality, and then we'd vanish home, to Valaris, if it went according to plan. We learned where the guards were stationed, how their rotations operated, and where their posts were on the mainland, too. Not gonna make a fish pie joke. Oh, I didn't even think about that. Oh, ew. You gonna take a bite out of his fish pie? And if it smells like fish, you should probably go get it checked out. It's okay, Katrusha. I'm kind of like that too. I tend to miss it, and then I go back and I'm like, oh, ew. Okay. And when Tarquin kissed my cheek goodnight, saying he wished that it was not my last evening and perhaps he would see about visiting the night court soon, I almost fell to my knees to beg his forgiveness. Rasan's hand on my back was a solid warning to keep it together, even as his face held nothing but that cool amusement. I went to my room and found Illyrian fighting leathers waiting for me, along with that belt of Illyrian knives. So I dressed for battle once again. Rhys flew us close to low tide, dropping us off before taking to the skies, where he'd circle, monitoring the guards on the island and mainland while we hunted. The muck reeked, squelching and squeezing us with every step from the narrow causeway road to the little temple ruin. Barnacles, seaweed, and limpets clung to the dark gray stones, and every step into the sole interior chamber had that thing in my chest saying, "Where are you? Where are you? Where are you?" Rhys and Omrin had checked for wards around the site, but found none. Odd, but fortunate. Thanks to the open doorway, we didn't dare risk a light, but with the cracks in the stone overhead, the moonlight provided enough illumination. Knee-deep in muck, the tidal waters slinking out over the stones, Omrin and I surveyed the chamber, barely more than 40 feet wide. "I can feel it," I breathed. "Like a clawed hand running down my spine." Indeed, my skin tingled, hair standing on end beneath my warm leathers. It's sleeping. "No wonder they hid it beneath stone and mud and sea," Omrin muttered, the muck squelching as she turned in place. I shivered, the Illyrian knives on me now feeling as useful as toothpicks, and again turned in place. "I don't feel anything in the walls, but it's here." Indeed, we both looked down at the same moment and cringed. "We should have brought a shovel," she said. "No time to get one." The tide was fully out now. Every minute counted. Not just for the returning water, but the sunrise that was not too far off. Every step an effort through the firm grip of the mud, I honed in on that feeling, that call. I stopped in the center of the room. Dead center. "Here, here, here," it whispered. I leaned down, shuddering at the icy muck, at the bits of shell and debris that scraped my bare hands as I began hauling it away. "Hurry!" Omrin hissed, but stooped to claw at the heavy, dense mud. Crabs and skittering things tickled my fingers. I refused to think about them. So we dug and dug until we were covered in salty mud that burned our countless little cuts as we panted at a stone floor and a lead door. Omrin swore. Lead to keep its full force in, to preserve it. They used to line the sarcophagi of the great rulers with it, because they thought they'd one day awaken. If the King of Highburn goes unchecked with that cauldron, they might very well. Omrin shuddered and pointed. "The door is sealed." I wiped my hand on the only clean part of me, my neck, and used the other to scrape away the last bit of mud from the round door. Every brush against the lead sent pangs of cold through me. But there, a carved whorl in the center of the door. "This has been here for a very long time," I murmured. Omrin nodded. I would not be surprised if, despite the imprint of the High Lord's power, Tarquin and his predecessors had never set foot here. If the blood spell to ward this place instantly transferred to them once they assumed power. Why covet the book, then? Wouldn't you want to lock away an object of terrible power, so no one could use it for evil or their own gain? Or perhaps they locked it away for their own bargaining chip if it ever became necessary. I had no idea why they, of all courts, was granted the half of the book in the first place. I shook my head and laid my hand flat on the whorl in the lead. A jolt went through me like lightning, and I grunted, bearing down on the door. My fingers froze to it, as if the power were leeching my essence, drinking as Amren drank, and I felt it hesitate, question. I am Tarquin, I am summer, I am warmth, I am sea and sky and planted field. I became every smile he'd given me, became the crystalline blue of his eyes, the brown of his skin. I felt my own skin shift, felt my bones stretch and change, until I was him, and it was a set of male hands I now possessed, now pushed against the door, until the essence of me became what I had tasted in that inner mental shield of his, sea and sun and brine. I did not give myself a moment to think of what power I might have just used, did not allow any part of me that wasn't Tarquin to shine through. I am your master, and you will let me pass. The lock pulled harder and harder, and I could barely breathe. Then a click and groan. I shifted back into my own skin and scrambled into the piled mud right as the door sank and swung away, tucking beneath the stones to reveal a spiral staircase, drifting into a primordial gloom. And on a wet, salty breeze from below came the tendrils of power. Across the open stair, Amren's face had gone paler than usual, her silver eyes glowing bright. I never saw the cauldron, she said, but it must be terrible indeed if even a grain of its power feels like this. Indeed, that power was filling the chamber, my head, my lungs, smothering and drowning and seducing. Quickly, I said, and a small ball of phalite shot down the curve of the stairs, illuminating gray, worn steps slick with slime. I drew my hunting knife and descended, one hand braced on the freezing stone wall to keep from slipping. I made it one rotation down, Amren close behind, before phalite danced on waist-deep, putrid water. I scanned the passage at the foot of the stairs. There's a hall and a chamber beyond that. All clear. Then hurry the hell up, Amren said. Bracing myself, I stepped into the dark water, biting down my yelp at the near-freezing temperature, the oiliness of it. Amren gagged, the water nearly up to her chest. This place no doubt fills up swiftly once the tide comes back in, she observed, as we sloshed through the water, frowning at the many drainage holes in the walls. We went only slow enough for her to detect any sort of ward or trap, but there was none. Nothing at all. Though who would ever come down here to such a place? Fools. Desperate fools, that's who. The long stone hall ended in a second lead door. Behind it, that power coiled, overlaying Tarquin's imprint. It's in there. Obviously. I scowled at her, both of us shivering. The cold was deep enough that I wondered if I might have already been dead in my human body, or well on my way to it. I laid my palm flat on the door. The sucking and questioning and draining were worse this time. So much worse. And I had to brace my tattooed hand on the door to keep from falling to my knees and crying out as it ransacked me. I am summer, I am summer, I am summer. I didn't shift into Tarquin this time. Didn't need to. A click and groan, and the lead door rolled into the wall, water merging and splashing as I stumbled back into Amren's waiting arms. Nasty, nasty lock, she hissed, shuddering not just from the water. My head was spinning. Another lock and I might very well pass out. But the phalite bobbed into the chamber beyond us, and we both halted. The water had not merged with another source, but rather halted against an invisible threshold. The dry chamber beyond was empty, save for a round dais and pedestal, and a small lead box atop it. Auburn waved a tentative hand over the air, where the water just stopped. Then, satisfied there were no waiting wards or tricks, she stepped beyond, dripping onto the gray stones as she stood in the chamber, wincing a bit, and beckoned. Wading as fast as I could, I followed her, half falling onto the floor as my body adjusted to sudden air. I turned, and sure enough, the water was a black wall, as if there were a pane of glass keeping it in place. "Let's be quick about it," she said, and I didn't disagree. We both carefully surveyed the chamber. Floors, walls, ceilings. No signs of hidden mechanisms or triggers. Though no larger than an ordinary book, the lead box seemed to gobble up the Phalite, and inside it, whispering, the seal of Tarquin's power and the book. And now I heard, clear as if Amryn herself whispered it.
Who are you? What are you? Come closer. Let me smell you. Let me see you.
We paused on opposite sides of the pedestal, the Phalite hovering over the lid. "No words," Amryn said, her voice barely more than the scrape of her boots on the stone. "No spells. You have to remove it. Carry it out." The thought of touching that box, getting close to that thing inside it. "The tide is coming back in," Amryn added, surveying the ceiling. "That soon?" Perhaps the sea knows. Perhaps the sea is the High Lord's servant. And if we were caught down here when the water came in? I did not think my little water animals would help. Panic writhed in my gut, but I pushed it away and steeled myself, lifting my chin. The box would be heavy and cold.
Who are you? What are you? Who are you?
I flexed my fingers and cracked my neck.
I am summer. I am sea and sun and green things.
Come on, Amryn murmured. Above, water trickled over the stones.
Who are you? Who are you? Who are you?
I am Tarquin. I am High Lord. I am your master. The box quieted, as if that were answer enough. I snatched the box off the pedestal, the metal biting into my hands, the power an oily smear through my blood. An ancient, cruel voice hissed, "Liar!" and the door slammed shut. That was chapter 36! Oh, that was a good cliffhanger. I'm gonna leave it there. And I'm gonna make you wait until Wednesday to hear what happens. Oof. Oh, but yeah, I wonder how they're gonna get out. I wonder what they're gonna do now that they got the book. I guess the book is talking to her, which is always creepy, but exciting. So yeah, I am done for the day. So Sote is who we are gonna be rating. I'm gonna get us all set up here and ready to go over there. But yeah, it was a good day hanging out with you. Okay, Trisha and Pippa, you know where I'm gonna be at 7, so we'll hang out there. For all y'all that don't know, we've been watching all the Twilight films over in the Page 7 Discord. It's been lots of fun, so if you're not busy at 7 o'clock, come hang out over there. We're watching Eclipse today. Okay, just waiting for the internet to tell me that we're available to raid. So, and then we'll go over there. Yeah, come swing by. Come hang out. Yeah, we're doing it in, I've built us a Rebel channel. So, it's the fun Rebel watch-alongs channel. We all hang out in there and we just talk and watch the movie. It's fun. So, yeah. Doo-doo. Do-do-do-do. Do. All right. Well, like I said, still waiting. I'm being able to do the raid that I want to do, so we're just hanging out. But see y'all in a bit. So. Alright, I am gonna go to the stream ending page, but once again, it was so nice seeing all of you. Talk to y'all later. Bye!